Greetings and welcome to Partner Perspectives. I'm Nigel Yule, Senior Director of Product Marketing at Oracle, and I welcome you to this video interview series for C-level executives. In this series we bring you insights from partners on key developments in subject areas that are specific to CFOs. Today I'm joined by Rachel Taylor, Partner of UK Tax and Finance Transformation at Deloitte, to talk about tax provisioning. Rachel, thanks for joining us. So let's start with a little outline of what tax provisioning is and why it's important to have a robust process in organisations for doing tax provisioning.
Yes, what we're talking about here is the global consolidation of all the local jurisdiction tax numbers, so bringing everything from around the group and around the world into one view, the overall view of the business. There's a number of reasons why this is an incredibly important process and has to be very robust. Firstly, because, as we all know, unfortunately, tax tends to be quite a large number. It's also a very visible number. It sits on its own within the P&L, so it doesn't tend to be hidden within other items. There's also a huge amount of media scrutiny. We can't fail to have noticed the global interest in how businesses are managing their tax affairs and how those are represented in the financial statements. So there's a whole host of reasons why this important number has to be got right.
So a very material number, but how are organisations actually calculating that number right now? How do they do it?
Generally, I'm afraid to say it's normally done on Excel spreadsheets, which can have their purpose. However, I would articulate the way that tax operates versus the wider finance processes. What we see within tax generally sits around 15, potentially 20 years behind the rest of the finance and the financial close processes. So we do see a lot of disparity between the large proliferation of spreadsheets used by tax with the very well-oiled and well-automated financial close processes for the wider finance function.
You're using spreadsheets to do the tax provisioning process. Where do you see the problems occur when they're using that sort of technology?
Well, spreadsheets are largely unaudited. People can go in, they can change them as the business structure changes. A new division or a new way that the business is set up can be easily misrepresented in those spreadsheets. There's very little audit trail that people can go back and look and see, well, you know, why did someone put in that number? Where did it come from? How does it tie back to the individual numbers that it then builds up from? And you also tend to get a lot of spreadsheets that are then linked with each other. So you'll send out a tax pack in a spreadsheet to an individual jurisdiction, they'll send it back, and then you end up with this tower structure of spreadsheets all building up to the final number. So there are any number of reasons why spreadsheets don't provide that real robustness and smoothness within the whole wider financial process.
And of course, not only is there the linking of those spreadsheets, but there's the link that provisioning has with the whole financial close process. So maybe you could talk a little bit about where those links are and what maybe the issues are.
Yeah, well, you generally need to have seen potentially one, maybe two iterations of the financial numbers so that you get some sort of stability and understanding of what the overall financial picture looks like. And this tends to mean that tax comes in later in the process. So the finance does the first cut, generally the second cut of the numbers. Tax then gets a look and has a relatively short timescale to then respond within. A lot of complexity within that process. So it tends to be a highly compressed part of the process, and as you're starting to hit the real reporting deadlines rather than in day one, day two after first financial close.
So of course tax is right at the end, but it's also crucial because that number has to come back into the financial close process to finish it. So what do you think are the key factors that organisations should actually look at if they're looking at replacing spreadsheets for doing their tax provisioning?
I think it's all around bringing tax, so the convergence of tax with the wider finance teams and processes. So the more that you can use the same data, the same systems in an automated way, it means that tax isn't an add-on at the end with a whole different set of either spreadsheets or processes around it. It's actually part of the mainstream financial close. That allows tax to have real visibility into the numbers early on. It also allows them to be part of the process rather than adding into it later. So as they're posting their numbers, they're going right back in with everybody else having visibility over what tax is producing. So the way we see it is about converging the tax and the finance processes, and with that the supporting technologies as well.
Well, Rachel, thank you very much for spending time with us today, and thank you very much to our audience for tuning in.